Hello and welcome. My name is dmitrymakelove, aka at dmitrymakelove, and you're listening to an episode of Faucets of Reality, a show in which we explore, learn about, and grow our understanding of what it is to be human at this time on Earth. Ever since I can remember, and it feels like forever, I have been fascinated with what all this is: being, life, and the nature of reality in general. It is now my hope to traverse these different facets and expand consciousness together with you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here. If you find that you enjoy listening, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and/or comment, as it shows the algorithm what I'm doing here is truly worthwhile and helps me reach more people. And with that, let's begin. Hey, how's it going? My name is Dmitry Makelove. Welcome to the first episode of Faucets of Reality. I just came up with this name not too long ago. A few days ago, I was laying in bed and it was just kind of a funny thought, thinking about nature, reality, something like that, and the term facets of reality. Well, just kind of a play on that. Faucets of reality. At first, I didn't really take it seriously, but then it kind of kept popping up in my head like, it's kind of funny. I like the general aspect of it, like we all use faucets all the time, but also it's kind of like a stream of water. And esoterically, water is known to be a purifying source of knowledge and wisdom. And I figure we're all kind of our own faucets through which knowledge and wisdom flows through, just like water. And also the age of Aquarius, because he is the water bearer. So he brought water, jugs of water, in order to enlighten people. So I'm not saying that that's what I'm doing or anything, but I feel as though each one of us has a deep well of wisdom to share. And that's kind of my hope for this thing that I'm doing here. um, Basically, what I want to do is I want to explore. I want to open up a channel first and foremost for myself, um, to kind of explore my own wisdom, things that are laying dormant inside. I want to learn, um, and finally, I want to help others do the same. So, yeah, I mean, it's nothing too much, but so I want to keep this first episode short, just to kind of give a synopsis of what I want this to be. Um, I also I'm hoping this will help me and others grow, other selves. Specifically, I want to get better at talking and really putting myself out there. That's just personal for me. Um, so, like I said, I do want to keep this short, but I figured that as a first episode, I think it would be good to introduce my audience, you guys, to who I am. And because of that, I want to just give a quick um, kind of autobiography, um, where I'm coming from. So, first and foremost, I was born in Moscow, Russia, to two artists. My parents did not really have much in terms of, material possessions, even though I did have I thought, very good childhood. I was an only child, until the age of 6 when my brother was born. During that time, I felt very much like I was, the center of attention, the only child. Um, and so there's a lot that happened. At one point, I remember we got a puppy, a little puppy dog, little cute puppy dog that, unfortunately, during a walk, um, right in front of me, he got hit by a car. So I just remember that. I believe I was about 4 years old or something, and that was like my first time experiencing or really seeing death. That is something that happens in this world. Um, so it was just kind of really shocking. I didn't really know what to do with that, and it took me many years to really fully grasp it. But now I see it as a blessing that it did kind of invoke this sense of seriousness within me, this kind of deep, profound wanting to know why things are the way they are. And also, the other thing is, looking back on that experience, um, it showed me this sense of inevitability. In other words, there's certain things that happen in this life that you can never go back from. Certain actions we take, we can never get it back, can never go back to the way things were. And in that sense, that time, for me, I really cherish that in my memory as being kind of like the golden age of my whole life. When I was young, I was innocent, and everything was new. It was then when my dad kind of instilled this deep sense of really, like, I guess I would say, Christian morals in me, even though I really didn't, at the time, it was just this kind of light, this love that my dad kind of gave on to me. He would kind of, give me a cross when I was going to bed and things like that, and I just felt like this deep love, kind of otherworldly almost. Um, so yeah, and then when I was 7 years old, I was just about to turn 7. On my brother's first birthday, we immigrated to America, to USA. Started living in Brooklyn, New York. Um, that to this day, that was probably the biggest thing that made me who I am today. Um, just moving to a whole new culture, a whole new country, the other side of the world, having to learn a whole new language at that age. It was just kind of this like double whammy of, well, I just learned this culture, I just kind of got my grasp on this language, now I have to learn a whole new one. It definitely wasn't easy. My parents were running around, really busy all the time, trying also, it wasn't easy on them, and I saw them growing. They were pretty young. I think my mom was like 30, when we moved. My dad got a job, my mom got a job, my sister was born a year after that. So, you could imagine 3 kids having to make it in this new world, which really was, it was a lot because it was kind of a dream because I was born at the end of the Soviet Union collapsed, right around the time I was born. So I was born 1989, September 7th, and we were some of the first people who were allowed out of the country. So it was pretty profound that happened in general. Just kind of like, when you're not in America, when you're outside, everyone wants to get here. It seems like it's the golden land of opportunity and all that. I'm sure you've heard it. So I feel grateful I have this experience coming in from the outside, so to speak, um, learning English. And yeah, again, it wasn't easy. It was very difficult to make friends, at that age. Barely know the language or how things work, So I remember we were watching a lot of The Simpsons. Like The Simpsons taught me English, like, to this day. I remember that it was a very profound effect on me. I remember during that time, I got into video games a lot. Nintendo 64 just came out. Super Mario 64 is still, I think, like one of the greatest games ever made. It really taught me a lot about life and just kind of like being in a different world. Um, we would watch Saturday morning cartoons all the time. I'm very much like a 90s kid, because of that. Um, so in Brooklyn, we moved to three different houses, moved around a lot, trying to find a good place. Started really kind of the bottom. Now we're here. Well, no, I mean, I really look up to my parents for everything that they were able to do, in such a short amount of time. My mom learned how to, program computers or something, and really database architecture. That's what she does. So she really pulled herself up. And um, so basically, I started, second grade, went up from there, and then around age 12 was when we moved to Rockland County, which is a little bit more upstate from the city. It's basically, I mean, it's kind of like a joke that everyone calls it upstate, but it's still very low in New York. New York goes up much further up. But it was about an hour upstate, so it was the suburbs of the city, you could basically say. So I kind of started this more upscale life, I would say. We had, our whole house, we had a property, and I really have a lot of memories from that place. And around the same time when we moved there was another thing that happened, really affected me very deeply, that my parents split up. They separated, and so from that point on, I wasn't living with my dad anymore. Something that he was really into was music all the time. He really was into the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones. He had a really good taste for those things. Um, in general, his father was a director, and that's actually how my mom and him met. My mom and my dad, they met at a movie studio in Moscow, one of the biggest movie studios, Mosfilm, where also my grandma, my dad's mom, she worked as a costume designer. And so I always feel like I was kind of born out of a love of movies, to this day. I love movies. I love, art and all types of expression and music specifically. My dad gifted me a guitar when I was around 13, 14, and that also had a huge effect on me. Uh, Funnily enough, in seventh grade, I started taking a guitar class in Suffern High School with Mr. Denny, and the things he taught me, I still remember to this day. Really, really impacted me a lot and kind of put me on this path of music. That's something that I pursued for most of my life. I was in a lot of bands in high school. My first band was in 8th grade. Me and my friend Duncan, I remember in Spanish class, we were sitting in the back, we'd always be making jokes, and like, hey, let's start a band. We're kind of into the same music. Because at that point I started, listening to the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Doors, a lot of things. Uh, we kind of started this band, and I just remember that was some of the funnest in my life. We played some shows. Like our first show was at the library. It was like an open mic. Um, and then from there, I remember we had some changes in members. And after that, I kind of, we kind of split up, and I pursued more of like, how do I say it? Like more of like a metal sound, more of hardcore music. It was called, some call it screamo. I got into like Under Oath was like my favorite band. I remember around, I was 16 years old. I first got my license, my license to drive my car, and my mom bought me like a Jeep, like a pretty beat up Jeep, but it drove, and so at that moment I just felt this huge sense of freedom. Like I could go anywhere at any time. I could do whatever I wanted. And literally I started giving like my friends rides all the time. That's all I would do. And we would hang out at the mall a lot, like Hot Topic and everything. So I was very much exposed to all this new, kind of hardcore music that was going on. And eventually I wanted to be in a band that did that kind of music. And at this point, I kind of trained myself to do like kind of like screaming vocals. I wasn't that good at singing. I still am not that great at singing, but that was something that really expressed this kind of like raw rage that I had in me. Just all these unprocessed emotions from everything that I've been through really gave me this outlet to vent and to really be loud, be seen. Um, and so again, I kind of bounced around a few bands, and eventually we had this band Vital Limit, where we had like almost 9 original songs, almost, because we were still working on a few of them, but we were playing shows, at my peak. I was kind of known, in the music community. Like people knew me. I was the front man of this hardcore band. Um, I like dyed my hair black, I would straighten it every day. I had a lip ring. Like it was definitely a cool time in my life. Really helped me to kind of see what it is to be known by people. I really felt kind of like a celebrity in a way. Like I knew a lot of people, and people kind of recognized me wherever I went. So it was definitely a cool time. So you could imagine how, heartbroken I was when we broke up. We split up at one point. And I swear it's like, at that age, it's like, breaking up with like a girlfriend or something. I was so heartbroken. All the work we put into it, all those songs, it was all just gone all of a sudden. Um, so I had to regroup, and a lot of things happened at that moment, at that point. I kind of made it a little bit harder to trust people. I'm not gonna lie, like straight up. So I started writing indie songs, like solo. Like I had a solo set, and kind of recorded myself, recorded my own original songs. Um, and also around that time, I kind of had this gap. I didn't know what to do with my life, and this was about 2011. This was when Occupy Wall Street was happening. It was a huge deal at the time. It was on all the news stations. And so I kind of took that time and had some money saved up. So I just went and I just started buying bus tickets. I left home with a backpack, and I kind of did a tour of the country. So, I hit Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Pittsburgh, um, Detroit. I went to Chicago, I went down to Kansas City. I went to Denver, and eventually I wound up in Los Angeles, LA, where arguably one of the biggest occupies was happening. This is because um, the the space there, the town hall, something about the guy that built it. He said it specifically that space was for protesters and they couldn't, push them out. So it was like just heavy, so many people in there. It was right by Skid Row, I remember. So it was just like interesting. My first time in California. Was it my first time? Yeah, I think so. Um, and I remember, like No Effects played there, and it was just like all the new stations were lined up, so it was like this really big thing. I met a cool group of kids I was hanging out with, and then at some point, I had my backpack stolen, so like I had all the stuff that I collected on my trip was gone. And there's definitely a bunch of stories, I could go into, but again, I'm gonna try to keep it short. I feel like this is already going kind of long. Uh, and so I had my stuff stolen, and I flew back to New York. I flew back home. I mean, what else am I gonna do? And I had to regroup once again. Around that time, me and my girlfriend at the time, she was going to this college, which was a little further upstate, kind of by the Catskills. If you're familiar with the area, it's called New Paltz, right between Poughkeepsie and Kingston. It's a little college town, little hippie college town. There's like a lot of just I don't know what else to say, like hippie, organic, kind of progressive people there. Um, I lived there, and I kind of started being friends with these, lack of a better word, street kids. This I got introduced to this whole other culture of people who, lived on very little. It was interesting to me coming from like an artistic background. People were able to do so much with so little, and it definitely impacted me a lot to the point where at one point I jumped on a van with a bunch of my friends, and we drove to North Carolina. Um, During that time, I think it was like 2013 or so. There was a huge rainbow gathering happening in the woods in the national park there in North Carolina, right by Asheville, North Carolina. Maybe you've heard of it. Kind of an hour and a half from there. So, I mean, long story short, Rainbow Gathering is this kind of underground, it's a gathering for all the people who kind of live on the road. Um, and, it's free, and so people just kind of show up and just, camp out, and there's like bartering circles, and there's like free food given out, and it's definitely very. It was like a festival, but with just this cultural exchange. Like that's the best way I could put it. It was just dirty and raw, and I really got to see this kind of anti-capitalist society, which in retro, I mean, just thinking about it, I mean, they're still buying these tents from Walmart, so it's still like capitalism is still kind of like the big thing anyway. But at least there's like a pushback, that's very inspiring to me, to say the least. Anyways, so from there, right after leaving there, we stopped at a Walmart. I was feeling carefree, anti-capitalistic, you could say, and I guess like walking out, I just pocketed some Skittles, walking out, I got stopped by these, I guess security guards, this group of people who just wouldn't let me go. And, my friend jumped in and they were like, why are you harassing him and everything? But I said, hey, like, I told them, it's cool, like, I did a bad thing, I'll go face the music. So I went, they arrested me, put me in jail for, it was supposed to be 30 days, ended up being like a week. So I was in jail for, a week, and I was just sitting there like, wow, like I really fucked up this time. Started reading the Bible, and um, I remember looking up. They had a TV. They'd usually be playing like Family Guy on there and stuff. And at one point, I just remember like hearing my friend's voice. They were on America's Got Talent. My friends, Austin Masterman, Ron Geffen, who their band like quote unquote made it. They were on TV and everything, and it was America's Got Talent. And um, honestly, they bombed the show. It was kind of embarrassing, but just to see, people that I knew who kind of like they actually did something. Again, it was just so disheartening. I'm sitting in jail, I felt like I really fucked up my life and started really thinking about like, oh, what am I gonna do? Um, I got out of there. That's a whole other story. Maybe I'll get into one day if you guys want. Got out of there, flew back to New York, and I kind of vowed like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna pursue this computer science degree. I'm gonna have a good life. um, and uh, so I did. I spent 3 or 4 years going to classes, living in these apartments, just kind of being a recluse. Like I just had my job, my school, and that's all I did. I didn't really have a social life. Yeah, I knew people, I had friends, but the back of my mind the whole time I'm thinking, oh, like I want to do music. I'd rather be doing music. I was always kind of writing songs, and I had the free time and things, and but I did, so I I went to classes, I learned all this stuff, passed most of the tests, and after that, it was 2016 when I kind of, again, I had to regroup, and I decided, I had told myself a long time ago when I was in California, I want to live here one day. I'm going to move here. I'm going to live here one day. And that's what I did. I packed up my 97 Dodge Escort. It was just this two-door sedan. Packed it up with, however much stuff I could fit. And I drove to San Diego. Um, Thank you, Stacy, my cousin, who let me stay with her for the first, couple of weeks. It ended up being a little bit longer than I expected, but hey, I found a job. I got an apartment. Um, I was working at the mall fixing phones. It's something I was getting into, and I was okay at it. So I was making money that way, paying for my apartment. And again, it was just that whole like 9 to 5 life where I had maybe a day or two of freedom every week, so I was going to work a lot, I was making money. And at that time I managed to record like my first album, I really like learned how to do all that stuff on FL Studio. I still use it to this day. My favorite recording program, I guess you could say, mixing, all of that. And at that point, um, wow, there's so many things. I played some open mics, I met some people, but nothing really happened. So eventually, I thought, hey, I'm in California, let me actually like explore a bit. It's such a beautiful place. I mean, to this day, California is like one of my favorite states, places on earth that I've ever been to, really. As I got to see it, I drove up Saved up money again, you know, drove up the coast all the way up California. Visited, you know, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, San Francisco. Kept going, kept going. Uh, Hit Eureka, and my goal for that one was to get to Mount Shasta, which, you know, I heard is like the root chakra of the world. You know, apparently the world has chakras, and this was like the root chakra, and I was like, it's so close, let me go see it. So, you know, I heard all these like people saying how, you know, there's like Lemurians that live in it, and like these, you know, fifth dimensional beings that people see in UFO sightings and all this stuff. And this is something I'm like, I've always been really drawn to. Specifically, is like, I do want to meet ETs one day. I want to meet aliens one day. That's always been my dream ever since I was a kid. Like, I'm ready, you know. Um, and so I drove up there, and I kind of camped out at the base of the mountain because the road was closed. I couldn't even really drive up any further than like the base. It's a little disappointing. I camped out in my tent. It was beautiful. I saw some really good pictures I took there. But again, nothing really happened, you know. Um, the feeling there definitely is like nothing else. And then from there, I went to Lake Tahoe. I kept driving and I drove around. And then I drove to all the way through Texas, um, to New Orleans, sold my Bitcoins for gas, and drove all the way back to New York. I came home, again, regrouped for a bit, and I thought, hey, you know what, California didn't really work out, let me go back to New Paltz. Got a pretty nice apartment right in town. I lived there for a year, worked at the Palisades Mall, again, fixing phones. It was quite a trip, no pun intended. And then at that point was when I met my girlfriend now, Patty Kelly. Um, so that's when we kind of started seeing each other. We've known each other for a long time, you know, but we kind of started to pursue a relationship, and that was very interesting. Around that time, well, around the end of, you know, I spent a year back in New York, and I helped her move to Milwaukee at the end of it, which is where she went to school, where we are now, actually. Um, After that, again, I did move back to California. I lived again in San Diego, Oceanside, for a bit. I had an apartment, and around there, that was 2020, so, you know, COVID hit. That was a big deal because my job closed down, and then I started getting money from the government. I was getting like $2,000 a month. So, um, my lease was up, and I was getting this money. So I was like, hey, why don't I go and live in Venice, LA? That is the place to be. Oh my gosh, just such a colorful environment. It's really staggering, just all the impressions you get there, just, you know, just walking through. It's still one of the most exciting places, I mean, that I've ever been to, that I always love to visit. I lived there, I lived in my car, I was getting money, so I was living really well, but it was still kind of, I guess it felt a little downtrodden, like it was a little bummy, I guess, you know, for a while. I kind of lived that whole lifestyle. And eventually, I decided to um, move in with Patty, my girlfriend now. So I came back to Milwaukee. which is where I am right now. Finally, last year was a huge year for me, 2022. Let me just go back for a second and just say that um, my my father, who has been a huge inspiration, influence on me, who I learned so much from, I really emulated for a lot of my life and tried to be like him, you know. Um, he, it was pretty shortly after him and my mom separated. He moved to a monastery. He became a monk. He kind of put all his eggs in the basket of Christianity, you know, Jesus Christ and all of that. And it's something that I will always really highly respect him for, just to be able to make a decision like that and literally give your whole life to this ideology, I guess you could say. He was a monk for the last 12 years of his life, at which point last year he passed away from liver cancer. This hit us very hard, you know, no one was expecting that. I mean, in a way, there were signs, you know, but you always kind of hope for the best. And when he passed away, we all flew over there and they had a beautiful funeral for him at St. Tikhon's Monastery, which I am incredibly grateful for. And just, you know, seeing his casket lowered into the ground had an intensely profound effect on me. I felt like, well, you know, this is it. It's like all on me now, you know, being the firstborn in my family and everything kind of instilled this, how do I say it? Inspiration, responsibility, even empowerment, sort of. Um, you know, as a philosopher, I always try to find the best in things. You know, the philosopher's stone is something that turns, you know, any situation into gold. I really fully believe that there's wisdom in everything. There's a higher reason. There's a higher order for this, for everything that happens. We may not know what it is in the moment, but there's a reason for sure. At the same time, my mom sold the house that we grew up in, like I said, Rockland County, which was also huge for me. So it was like this, you know, last summer, August, it was like this, like two of these pillars of my life were just taken away from me. So, I mean, again, it was difficult and I cried a lot, but it really made me feel like, you know, now I'm really on my own. Now it's really up to me and no one else. And this is why it made me really focus on kind of like, you know, I've been meaning to make a podcast for a while. I have these ideas, but there's a deeper kind of soul mission that I feel that I'm here to do. Hopefully this brings me closer to it because I'm not exactly sure what it is. But I feel as though a lot of us feel this way at this time. I mean, this planet is changing. I mean, I really feel like we are entering, if we haven't already entered, a golden age, you know, the age of Aquarius. Some say this is like the second renaissance. I mean, it is so easy to create now more than ever. So I just want to use the tools, you know, at my disposal in order to make the world better and to inspire others. um, to really help, you know, myself grow spiritually, but also others. Hopefully, through my story, you can get something from it. Um, so, anyways, yeah, I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. I mean, it just seems like this kind of ran on a little long, but yeah, here it is, my first episode, Faucets of Reality. Let's see, anything else? Oh yeah, so this is 2023, the year of seven, and today is January 11th, 111. If you got seven and three together, it is one. And so I felt like today was a great day to start this off. Let's see if there's anything else. I don't think so. Basically everything. Hopefully it's not too long. Hopefully you're still listening. And if you are, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm open to any questions you have. You want to message me, or just hit me up on social media. It's Dmitry Makelove, DmitryMakelove. Yeah, I'll be seeing you soon. Faucets of Reality. Hey, you made it to the end. You get a gold star. Seriously, thank you so much. You are supporting what I am doing here just by listening, and I appreciate that a whole lot. Remember to subscribe, and if for any reason you wish to reach out, I am on Instagram at dmitrymakelove. That's DmitryMakelove. Have an amazing day. Remember, all is one. IO. And until next time.